you look at that pick and roll and you think about Hartenstein and the screening chemistry that Brunson and
Yep.
Hartenstein had last year in particular. And that took some time to develop. That didn't happen day one with those two guys. It took weeks, months, repetition, I think, for Hartenstein to figure out where Jalen wanted to be screened, where to be on the floor, how to position himself. So I think that's another thing that, if everything is going right and things are going according to plan with this team, that screen chemistry with Towns and Brunson, will improve over time. Certainly something to keep an eye on because of how good it was with Hartenstein over the course of last year and even before that. But we're talking a lot about Cat with Jalen. We talked about the scoring, and we talked about him fitting in, and we talked about last year's team, right? And how this year's team, it's a different team, right? The DNA of this team is very different. And so one of the ways it's showing up to me is in the paint. Knicks giving up a lot of paint points in Houston and in Atlanta last night, and getting really out-rebounded on the offensive glass in particular against that Atlanta team. And, this was something the Knicks hung their hat on last year. Offensive rebounds, winning the possession battle, creating extra shots, low turnovers. We haven't seen that consistently from this group yet. Is it fair to expect that same level on the glass from this team, Skyzoo, or should we just get used to a different brand of basketball with this team?
I would hope so. You got a 7'1" guy in there who's not frail or thin. You got somebody in there who can really go for it. It just makes you wonder what can be when Mitchell Robinson comes back. So when you have the both of them together, kind of a la Cat and Rudy Gobert, so now everybody kind of slides back to certain positions. And man, having Cat there, and he's so accurate in water from three, and seeing it in person is insane. It's just every time it goes up, you feel like it's cash. So if you have that and you have Mitchell, and they can sit in there and it really cause disruptions on defense and offense, that'd be great. But obviously we're a ways from that now. I think it could still be expected. I'm old school. I want my 7-footers to do 7-foot things. I've always looked at positions in basketball to be positions and to be able to pull those things off. So I think we should expect that. And I think Cat would expect that from himself, especially being back with Tibbs, knowing who Tibbs is and the regime that he runs and how he wants things. We should expect that for sure.
John, your thoughts on the DNA of this group, the makeup of this group, and the expectations, and what it should look like, what the expectations should be based on years past.
Yeah, I mean, just a couple quick stats on what you were just talking about. I just looked up on Cleaning the Glass, which is a great stats website. The Knicks right now are 6th in the league in terms of limiting opponents' frequency of shots at the rim. That's obviously excellent, and again, that's the blueprint, right? That's what they when they got these wings and they paired Cat with them. They say, well, teams just aren't going to shoot close at the rim. The problem is once they get there, teams are hitting the Knicks are 3rd from the bottom in terms of opponents' frequency. Opponents are hitting 72.4% of their shots once they get in the restricted area. Now, that's not all on Cat. The Lakers, who employ Anthony Davis, pretty good defender, they're only 2 spots higher than the Knicks. So it's not completely indicative of Towns. There's more than that goes into it. But I do think that they need to get at least some of that DNA back. As far as the rebounding, I'm not too worried about the rebounding. I think they have good defensive rebounders. I think rebounding, like a lot of the things we're talking about, is the sort of thing that as guys get used to each other will improve. The thing that is going to change is like the offensive rebounding is just never going to be to the level that it was in previous years because you're playing 5 out now, and it's not really possible to get that level of offensive rebounds if you got your center a lot of the time behind the 3-point arc. I to answer the larger question very briefly, and this is, I think, part of why we're sitting here and we're talking about a 3-4 team. They're not going to be able to just be a better version of last year's team. They are a fundamentally different organism. You have changed out too many of the parts and changed up too much of the play style to expect it to just be a better version of that. They need to, in a way, rediscover who they are and rediscover their formula for winning at both ends. And I know for me, before the season, I said, look, if this happens within 20 games, I will count my lucky stars. It might take longer than that. It has been brought up many times. The 2010-11 Heat, what did they start? 9-8, and that was like the greatest team. People thought it would be the greatest thing ever, and it takes a while. It takes a while.
Yes, and Towns coming in mid-training camp, I think that matters too. And